Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Ebony Evaughn, your go-to business operations strategist. As you can tell, I am back with another Notion tutorial for you. And today I'm going to show you how you can create your very own SOP library using a SOP database in Notion. And I'm also going to show you how you can set up a personal customized SOP template for your database. All right.
There's no stopping me now. I know my shot sit down. Money's all over me. I'm called to be rich and be free.
So for those of you who may not know, when it comes to creating SOPs is a standard operating procedure. And essentially, this is a document that outlines from A to Z how you create a specific process or task within your business. And it's good for you to have these because even if you're a solopreneur, consistency is key, right? And you want to be able to perform a task the same way every single time so that you get the same results, whether that's your process for creating social media content, whether you're a freelancer and you're creating graphic designs, you're doing video editing, you're a photographer. You want to make sure you have a standard process that helps you to deliver the same result on repeat time after time. So having standard operating procedures in your business will help you to maintain that consistency and accuracy. So in today's video, I'm actually going to show you how to create a database for yourself. So right now you can see it says PlanCORRECT 2.0, and that is because I am working on a new Notion template. On the previous template, I always survey people and I see like what features are they using the most, which ones do they like the least, use the least, what would they like to see, and if they have any questions or if they would like to see tutorials for anything. And one of the most frequently asked questions is what to create, what to have in their SOP database, or what should their template look like for when they're creating their SOPs. So in this Notion tutorial today, I'm going to actually walk you through the process of creating the database that's going to live in this template, but then also I'm going to walk you through the process of how you create a template and you can customize it and make it your own. If you're interested in purchasing this template, I will leave the link somewhere, description, comment, if you're interested, but you can also follow along and build a Notion SOP template database yourself. All right, so this SOP library is going to live on this Notion template. So it's going to be right here under operations. So what I'm going to do is just come down here and I'm going to add a new page. So I am going to put page instead of doing, you can type database and you see you can add a full page database, but I don't want to make this a full page because I'm going to add some different sections under it and it'll make sense later. Okay. So to add this, I'm just going to do page. And then we're going to name our page SOP library. And then I'm going to add an icon to our page. The icon is going to be our little file box there. And then I'm going to change the width of this. So since we're going to add a database, I want to change this to full width. So we'll have more space for all the properties in our database. And now what I want to do is just add our actual database is going to house our SOPs. So now I'm going to just hit slash and then database. And this time we're going to add a database in line. So now we have our database. Let me move me over here. I guess I want to put myself in the middle for now because I feel like if I move myself over there, I'll be in the way when we're adding properties. And if I'm over here, you won't be able to see. So we'll go with this for now. So I'm going to name my database. I'm just going to say SOP library. And then I'm going to hide the title just to have it out the way. And so now we can actually set up our database and add the properties. Depending on your business model, if you're a solopreneur, if you have a small team, if you have a large team, the properties that you add may be different. But for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to go kind of standard line, streamline in the middle for properties that most businesses would likely use. The first thing I'm going to do is rename this property that is here, and I'm going to call it SOP title. And then we're going to fill in the properties for our database. The next property that I want to add is going to be, let's do department. And then for department, we're going to make this a select. And then I'm going to add, what other properties do we need? Let's see, let's do status. Sure. And then let's do responsible. And this is basically, it's just going to be like who owns this process. And that's going to be helpful for when it comes to like documenting or making sure that the process is regularly updated and verified. Okay. So we're going to change this to a select as well. And then also, let's say we're going to have just a regular status. I don't want to use this status, so we'll change this. Well, I guess we can leave it as that status. And then the only other thing that I want to add is we're going to add some default fields for like the creation date. And then you could also have created by. No. Oh, is this still, hold on. Okay, yeah. Let me edit this. This should be date. I'm moving too fast. So creation date. All right. And we will leave that as is. And then we're going to add another property for created by. And we're going to let this be default. So it's automatically going to add created by. And then something else, this is optional, but you could also do like last edited by or last edited time. And when it comes to your SOP database, if you have a small or large team, this may be helpful to know, like if something has been revised, when was the last time that it was reviewed? When was the last time it was revised? And who was it revised by? If you're a solopreneur, this is going to be less important, but it is a nice to have, even if you're just being, like forward thinking for your business. Okay. All right. So we're going to do last edited by, and then we're also going to add last edited time. So that way, whenever you have revisions, and I'm actually going to rename this last revised by, and then last revision. All right. And I'm going to hide these because these really aren't important. Oh, yeah. I'll leave them there for now. I hate having this little line here, but we're going to rock with it. We'll see how long I let the line stay there, y'all. I am OCD. So now that we have the properties for our database, we want to go in and actually add the different fields or options to select. So I am probably going to speed through this, and then once I get this done, I'll come back. So for department, what we want to do is hit edit property, and since this is a select, we're going to add all the possible options that we could have within our database. So I'm going to do options, and let's say we have our marketing department. Oh, I misspelled marketing. Come on. Marketing department. We also have our administration. We have finance. We have, what other, sales maybe, operations, etc. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and add all of these in here. All right, so now I have went through all the properties and basically added different options for each one. So first things first is we have our department. And so essentially when it comes to, let me add a line here. So we're going to say sample SOP. And now when it comes to our properties, we can go through and select the appropriate option. So for department, we can say this is for marketing approval status. This is not approved. The responsibility, let me move me out the way. You can see responsible is pretty much is who is going to be responsible for this process or procedure. So let's say this is marketing. So the marketing director is going to be responsible for this and they own this process. The status is going to be the status. And let me actually move this here. I rather have the status not started. So this is the status for the actual process of creating the document. And as of right now, it's not started, but we're going to say we're working on this. We can move it to in progress, right? And then over here, hey, why didn't you add a creation date? I want this creation date to be automatic. So let me come back in here and make sure that we have, oh, it does say date. Why is it not? Okay, there we go. All right, so that should pop up automatically. Yeah. So this will, whenever you add a new SOP, will automatically add the creation date and the person that created it, when it was last revised, and who it was revised by. All right, so now that we have our database itself set up for our SOPs, the next thing that I want to do is show you how you can actually create a SOP template that you can use over and over again so that your SOP template or your SOPs themselves have a standardized process. So in order to create a template, what you want to do, and I'm sorry, y'all, this line here is getting on my nerves, so I have to hide these. I was trying to see how long I was going to be able to go without like worrying about the line, but it's my OCD, okay? Like I hate having that line at the bottom. All right, so now what I want to do is we want to add our SOP template. And so in order to create a template for your SOP library or any database within Notion, you want to go to this blue button over here and you want to go to the little drop down arrow. And then once you click on that, you can see there's nothing in this database. We just created it. So what we want to do is hit new template. And so this is going to open up a separate window. You know that you are editing a template because you do have the banner up at the top that says you're editing a template in SOP library, which is the name of our SOP database. So now what we want to do is basically any changes that we make in here is going to be our default template that is going to populate every time we add a new SOP to our database. So as you can see, it has our properties here. What I want to do, I like to put template in brackets so that when you do add a new page, you'll know what's a template and what is something that has been created from your template. So I'm going to say template and then just have SOP here. And then here, if you put something in these fields, this is going to automatically default to whatever you put in your properties every single time. So obviously, since you're creating a template for a new SOP, the approval status could automatically default to not approved. You don't want to add the department because your department can be different. You don't want to add the responsible because who owns the process can be different. But for status, you can also default this to not started as well. And then from here, we can start building out the template for our SOP. So the first thing that I want to do is open up this window a little bit bigger so we have more space to work with. And what I want to do is start building out this template. So the first thing that I want to do, let me move me over here again. Let me move me over here. What we want to do is start building this out. So when it comes to creating an SOP, I recommend following a process to where you kind of have your introduction or your scope at the top. So like, why do you need this process? And then if there's any helpful information, you have a feel for that. And then also the steps, of course, for how you actually do your process. So the first thing that I recommend is having a header here. So in order to add a header, you could do slash and then just start typing. And then let's do header 2. And then here we're going to call this introduction. And then do I want to put this? Yeah, we'll do introduction for this, and then I'm just going to add a little color to the background so we know this is a header. So let's make this yellow. And then under the introduction, I want to add a toggle. So to add a toggle, we're just going to do, I can never remember like if this is I think greater than, which is greater than and less than. Do not judge me, okay? Your girl is good at math though, but these symbols, they be having me stressed out, okay? So we're going to do that to add a toggle. And when I hit space, you can see this turns into a toggle. And then basically I'm going to name this purpose. And so here, I'm just going to add a little placeholder that says insert the purpose of this SOP. And then I'm going to go down from here. We're going to add this outside of that toggle. And I'm going to add another toggle up. And then we're going to call this scope. And then under here, this is going to be insert the scope of this SOP. And then I'm going to just style this a little bit, make that bold, make this bold, maybe make this a toggle 3. We're going to make this a toggle 3. And then we're going to close this up just to save space. Under this, under our introduction, I'm going to add a separate header. What did I use? Header 2? I believe it was 2. And then we're going to add definitions and abbreviations. And so this is just helpful more so if you have a team and you're training new people and you're introducing them to like new maybe new tools, new acronyms, new jargon that's specific to the industry or your company. It's helpful to have a place to where you can basically outline any abbreviations or definitions that are going to be helpful for them when it comes to completing this process. So here I'm just going to insert a table. And then we're going to do a table with 2 columns. The first one is going to be term or abbreviation. I can never type abbreviation. And that's like, I guess I could make this a little bit bigger. And then we're going to make this bold and underlined. And then over here we'll say definition. And we will make this bold and underlined as well. So for example, I may want to say the acronym is SOP, and I want to spell out that that is a standard operating procedure, right? So that's what you would use the definition table for, is for any definitions or abbreviations that are going to be important for when it comes to whoever is actually completing this process. The next thing that you want to do is add a placeholder for, let's do our heading, and we're going to do materials/tools. And basically, this is where you outline any tools or any materials that are going to be needed to complete this process. So basically, so if you have an online business, most likely you're not going to have materials that are physically needed, but you may need specific tools or logins to specific applications. So if someone is creating a graphic design, they may need to log into your Adobe account. They may need to log into Canva, right? So you want to make sure that you list, okay, what tools and resources are going to be needed for you to complete this process. And so basically, again, I'm just going to add a table. So for the sake of this, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to duplicate this table right here, and I'm going to just bring it down here. And then we're going to name this material/tool. And then we're going to call this description or details. And then an example of this could be, let's say, Canva, and you need to log in. We'll say you will need to log into Canva to create graphics or whatever, right? So just your description and details for the material or the tool that's going to be used in the process. And then under this, I typically, let me just copy this. And to copy something quickly, you could just do Control D. So under this, we're also going to add another section that's going to be for roles and responsibilities. And again, this is one of those sections that is more so important if you have a larger team or a small team and you have multiple different people that are responsible for multiple different processes. So with roles and responsibilities, what you want to do is have the role or title, and then you want to have the key responsibilities. And so here, let's say this is creating graphic designers. So the roles and responsibilities could be the marketing manager, or I think I called them a director. Director is responsible for reviewing and updating policy as needed, right? And then you may also have a graphic designer, and they are responsible for is followed and reporting any issues. All right, so that would be roles and responsibilities. Now, under this is where you actually get into lining out the steps for your procedure or the process that you are documenting. And so we're going to add another heading. Heading 2, we're going to call this procedure. I'm going to change the background color on this to yellow. And then here is where you actually just start to create the template for your steps itself. And so for me, I like to kind of separate these steps by creating what I like, it's called a call out. So I'll do call out, and then here we will change this to like the list with the bullets. We'll do this one. And then here we're going to have step 1, and then this is going to be step 1 in our process. All right, so now we have step 1, and so this is basically just a call out box. It's going to highlight step 1 in the process, and then here we just want to insert if I can spell, insert step title here. And then under this, you just add a placeholder where you can actually add the description. Describe or process to complete procedure. What's the procedure? I don't know why that just popped in my head. Anyways, so you would just have your description there. And of course, we don't need this to be bold, so we'll just change that. And then you would basically just repeat this. We're going to duplicate that twice, and then that would be your template for the steps to create the process. And then after the procedure, I always like to add just one more section, and this is pretty much just going to be for any related documentation. So I'll do related documentation. And then here, we're going to change this background to yellow. And then here, I just do file placeholder. And then I'll duplicate this a couple times. Or, what is it? Let me do, there we go. All right, and then I'm going to change this to, let's do 2 columns. And this isn't necessary. This is just like styling preference. And then over here, we're going to duplicate this twice. And then we're going to duplicate this one as well. So if you have any related documentation, you can basically put that here. And so if there's documentation that's related to creating your graphic design, for example, then you can link to it down here so people don't have to go looking for it in another SOP or on your Google Drive or whatever. So I'm going to take out this stuff, and I'm going to make sure that this is literally just a template. All right, so essentially we have created our template. We are done editing. So now all I have to do in order to get out of this, within Notion, it automatically saves as you go. So all I'm going to do is just go up here to the top to my little breadcrumb, and I'm going to go back to SOP library. And then here you can see that we are back to our standard database. And so one more thing that I want to do is come over here to my little blue button. I'm going to go back to the little drop down button, and I'm going to go to the template that we just created. I'm going to go to the little ellipsis over here. And what I want to do, I don't want to edit this, but I do want to click on this and say set as default. So now that this is set at the default, whenever you click on new page, it's automatically going to use the default template that we just added. So let's go ahead and test this out. So now we are going to click new page. When I click new page, you can see it automatically pops up with a template SOP. You can see the status says not started, and it says approval status. So now that we have this, I'm going to just click open, and you can see when I pop this open, it has our SOP template that we just created, and we can then go in and add our details for what the process is going to look like. So that is how you could create a SOP database as well as a SOP template. All right, so now that we have our SOP library done, I do remember in the beginning I said we were going to do this in an inline database by creating a page instead of doing a full page database. And that is because I want to show you how you can actually add categories so that you can segment or separate your SOPs. So for the purposes of this, we're going to add another couple of pages up here. Let's call this a admin SOP. We're going to add another one that says just test SOP, and then we're going to add another one that says testing purposes. All right, and so basically what I want to do is I'm going to go through and add different departments to this. And let's see, let's add this one to marketing. We'll add this one to HR. And so essentially what we can do now that we have these different segments here, I'm just filling this in to give you guys the vision. All right. Okay. Now that we have these done, what you can do if you actually want to kind of categorize these is you could create different departments down here. So underneath our database, what I want to do is I'm going to just hit the slash and then 3C, and I'm going to break this into 3 columns. You could do 3 columns, you could do 4, it really doesn't matter. But essentially what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put slash, and then this time I'm going to do a linked view of database. So I'm going to click linked view, and then we're going to find our SOP library that we just created. And then basically what I want to do now is I'm going to filter this based on departments. So I'm going to go to filter, I'm going to go to department, and then I'm going to select each department. It's going to have their own thing. So we'll do HR over here. I'm going to add another linked view of the database. And then this time we're going to do our database. We're going to do a filter, and we're going to filter on department. The department is going to be marketing. And what else do I have up here? We have marketing, we have HR. Let's do client services. So we're going to do another linked view of our database. And then we're going to do our SOP library. We're going to filter based on department. Department is going to be client services. And then we're going to hide this title on all of these. And then here you can actually add a heading. So let me type heading 3. And let's duplicate that 3 times. We're going to move this up here, move that over there, and move that over there. And then we're going to, I believe this is human resources, this is marketing, and this is client services, right? So essentially what we can do is we can actually, let's do like a gray background, segment these into different sub-departments. So you could break your SOPs up into categories. So this isn't necessarily required because you can also search your database for specifics, but I do find that if you have a larger company or if you have a lot of SOPs, then it helps if you can actually break this down into categories, and it helps you to find things a little bit faster. And we don't have to see the status on this, so we can hide that. We can hide all of this stuff, right? And so now you can see that this is more streamlined, and it would make sense if these had better names so that you can kind of really get the vision and see the difference. But basically this would be breaking it up so that you can see each SOP in a separate database. Now, in addition to this, you don't have to do this, because if you wanted to search for something in your database itself, you could just go over here to where it says search, and then you can type in what you're looking for. And so you could say admin, and then you can see it filters to the admin SOP. So that's another way that you can actually quickly find a specific SOP that you are looking for. All right, so there you have it. That is how you can create your very own SOP database within Notion, and how you can create a SOP template. If you enjoyed this video, found it helpful, then make sure you smash that like button. It does help me get more visibility and boost this video in the algorithm. If you want to see other Notion tutorials, drop them down below in the comments of this video. Other than that, you guys, thanks so much for stopping by my internet home. I will see you in the next Notion tutorial. Bye, y'all.